Good morning, Mount Olive Church and friends of Mount Olive Church. Happy Saturday to you. Andrew Short coming to you here. It feels like it's been a long time, but I guess it's been a couple weeks. Thanks to Brother Matt for filling in there last week. Also, we started school back, so this 4-day week has felt like a month. It's been good, been a good week, but share my screen here with you. Just trying to get back in the swing of things. Those of you who work not teaching jobs, you're like, yeah. But us teachers are trying to get back in the groove here. So I'm going to do a quick devotion for you here on this Saturday morning from Brother Jason's message last Sunday. And just great message by Brother Jay. Really appreciated him. All the guys always that do messages. But man, I thought it was a really, really good message. He said the best one of the year. That's still true, by the way. Best Sunday morning message anyway of the year. So we did appreciate him though, and love the point. We're gonna look at the point of worship. It was the last point. He had 5 points for the new year, and just I've always heard somebody else, maybe Pastor TJ once upon a time preach on this kind of same idea, but worship kind of in the midst of the storm. So we're gonna go to Matthew 14, verse 31 through 33 here, and of course this is. The disciples are in the storm. Jesus is off by himself praying, and there was some really good points by Jay early on about prayer. I thought about going that direction, but kind of changed at one point and going to go this way. But on down after the storm, or in kind of the midst of the storm, verse 31 here, and immediately Jesus stretched forth his hand and caught him. So Peter has already came out onto the water, has taken that step, and I agree with everybody kind of who has said that so far this week, that we give Peter a hard time, but at least he got out of the boat, right? But so he's done that. He's sinking. Immediately here in verse 31, Jesus stretched forth his hand and caught him. Well, the word immediately there, by the way, he didn't let Peter get underwater and lay there for 10 minutes, and then he immediately stretched forth his hand and caught him. He knew what he needed. When Peter wanted him to save him, he did. And said unto him, O thou of little faith, wherefore didst thou doubt? Verse 32, and when they were come into the ship, the wind ceased. Got that highlighted there. I think sometimes we're quick to read over that part. And, this was a miracle, probably, at least as much as any of the other miracles Jesus did. Imagine being in that boat in this big storm. If you've ever been in a storm near the beach or near a body of water, how crazy it can get. And so they get in the boat and it just stops. Imagine the peace that was in that moment. Verse 33, kind of here was the idea. Then they that were in the ship, including Peter, by the way, right, who was in the ship now, came and worshipped him, saying, of a truth, thou art the Son of God. So love this part of the story. We focus a lot on the part where Jesus goes by himself to pray. We focus a lot on the part of Peter getting out of the boat. But I've never thought about this kind of the way Jay said it. I'm going to skip down to kind of point 3 right here. Remember that Jesus can carry you on the water. I love the point of, it's not actually in this story, but Peter sinks, Jesus pulls him up. They've got to get back to the boat, right? Which means either Jesus allows Peter to walk back on the water onto the boat, or I'm kind of like Jay. In my mind, it's Jesus carrying Peter back to the boat. So not only can our Jesus, not only can our Savior walk on water, he can also carry us while he's walking on the water. Love that point. Love that thought from Jay. Thinking a little bit this week about how did Peter feel in this moment. Imagine the highs and the lows he went through, and we'll get to worship here in just a second, but he steps out of the boat. He's on this emotional high, like, this is my Jesus. I know he can get me out there. He can even help me walk on water. And then he loses it. He starts to sink, and then he's picked back up. Imagine the comfort he felt, when Jesus picks him back up. Imagine he gets back in the boat. He's all wet. Peter's kind of feeling bad about himself, but then imagine the worship that took place there in that verse, that all in the boat worshiped Jesus once they were back in the boat. And so, and another point here, that so the range of emotions that Peter went through, and then 2, just because you have sunk, may not be exactly the way Jay said it, but just because at some point in your life you have sunk, maybe more than one time in your life you have sunk, maybe, we go through different small versions of that on and off all the time, but just because you have done that, don't lose hope. Peter didn't sink and then just give up, right? he allowed Jesus to pick him up out of that and carry him back to the ship. Sometimes that's all we need to do is get out of our own way and let Jesus take over, right? So finally here, all of these emotions, all of this up and down that Peter goes through, the storm, the calming of the storm, the sinking, the Jesus carrying him back to the boat, all of those emotions, they always end on worship, right? Jesus was, he deserved to be worshiped in this situation, just like he always does. So Peter got that. He was in that boat along with the other disciples, and they knew that Jesus deserved to be worshiped, not in just this situation, but in all situations. And that's something I think I need to be reminded of today. Maybe you do too, but we always need to end, no matter what kind of day we've had, how much up and downs we've had, Jesus always deserves to be worshiped. So remember that this week as we go ahead into tomorrow's service. So just a little quick lyric from a song here. It's called Take Me Back. Maverick City Music, I believe, is who sings it. But it says, when the storm's out on the ocean, I heard this week, and I thought it went along good with this. And the violent winds get to blowing like they did for Peter. Take me back to my first love. So remind me of the Jesus I serve. Remind me of the all-powerful, all-seeing God that I have when I'm in the midst of these storms, whether, whatever it is. We could go through the long list of different things that are storms in our lives, but remind me, take me back to my first love. Take me back to Jesus and remind me how good he is to me. So hopefully you got something out of that Mount Olive Church. Again, loved the message last week from Brother Jay. If you've not listened to that and the other devotions this week, please go back and do that. They were great. And hopefully you will join us tomorrow, Sunday morning, for service. Please do that. Join us at Mount Olive. If you can't, join us online. We love you guys. Have a good rest of your weekend. See you tomorrow.